Cyber Threat Brief for April 16, 2026. This month's Patch Tuesday releases reveal a convergence of legacy and modern threats. A 17-year-old Excel vulnerability returning to active exploitation demonstrates that threat actors are mining historical CVE, or common vulnerabilities and exposures, databases for unpatched systems, particularly legacy Office deployments that predate modern security baselines. The simultaneous exploitation of 0 days in Adobe Reader and SharePoint Server shows attackers targeting both client-side document handling and server-side collaboration platforms. Infrastructure management tools continue to be high-value targets, with critical vulnerabilities in Fortinet 40 Sandbox, SAP BW/BPC, and Engine XUI all requiring immediate attention. The surge in supply chain compromises, Team PCP, WordPress Essential Plugin, N8 and abuse, indicates attackers are shifting from direct exploitation to poisoning trusted software distribution channels and productivity platforms. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cybersecurity Brief. April 16, 2026 today. 2 0-day vulnerabilities from Microsoft and Adobe are under active exploitation. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, added a 17-year-old Excel flaw to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog after detecting in the wild abuse. Fortinet, SAP, and Engine XUI all released critical patches, with Engine XUI already being exploited following public disclosure. Next section, Critical Alerts. 17-year-old Excel vulnerability, CVE 2009-0238. Exploited in active attacks, a critical Excel remote code execution vulnerability from 2009 has returned to active exploitation. CVE 2009-0238. CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 9.3, EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, 81%, 99th percentile, was first patched in February 2009, but CISA confirmed exploitation shortly after Microsoft's April Patch Tuesday. The vulnerability allows attackers to execute code by convincing victims to open a specially crafted Excel document with a malformed object. It affects Microsoft Office Excel 2000-2007, Excel Viewer, and Office for Mac 2000 and 4/2008. CISA added the vulnerability to its KEV, Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog with a 2-week remediation deadline, 1 week shorter than usual, indicating urgency. Action. Verify Excel versions are patched beyond 2009 releases. Block XLS and XLSX macros from untrusted sources. This vulnerability predates modern Excel versions, but systems running legacy Office installations or unpatched Excel Viewer remain exploitable. Sources: the Register CISA. Adobe Acrobat Reader 0-Day, CVE 2026-34621. Under active exploitation, Adobe addressed a critical remote code execution vulnerability in Acrobat Reader that has been exploited in the wild. CVE 2026-34621, CVSS 8.6, CISA KEV due April 27, EPSS 6.1%, 91st percentile, allows code execution without user interaction beyond opening a malicious PDF. Adobe has not disclosed exploitation details, including threat actor identity, targeting patterns, or infection scale. Action: update Adobe Acrobat Reader immediately. Apply KB patches from April Patch Tuesday. Monitor for suspicious PDF-based email attachments. Sources: The Hacker News. Microsoft SharePoint Server spoofing flaw, CVE 2026-32201. Exploited as 0-day Microsoft confirmed active exploitation of a SharePoint server spoofing vulnerability prior to April Patch Tuesday. CVE 2026-32201, CVSS 6.5, CISA KEV due April 28. EPSS 1.2%, 79th percentile, stems from improper input validation, allowing attackers to spoof data over a network and access sensitive information. SharePoint environments used as document stores are high-value targets for ransomware operators seeking data for double extortion. The vulnerability could be weaponized to deploy malicious documents or replace legitimate files with infected versions for lateral movement. Action: patch SharePoint Server with April security updates, KB 5082063, and related. Audit SharePoint file access logs for unusual document modifications. Review document libraries for unexpected changes. Sources: The Hacker News, The Register. Windows Task Host Privilege Escalation, CVE 2025-60710. Exploited CISA flagged a Windows privilege escalation vulnerability as exploited in attacks. CVE 2025-60710. CVSS score not disclosed. CIS a KEV due April 27. EPSS 18.2%, 95th percentile, affects Windows 11 and Windows Server 2025. The flaw stems from improper link resolution before file access, allowing local attackers with basic user permissions to gain system privileges via low-complexity attacks. Microsoft patched the vulnerability in November 2025, but CIS a confirmed active exploitation and gave federal agencies 2 weeks to remediate. Action: deploy patches for Windows 11 and Windows Server 2025 from November 2025 security updates. Verify patch deployment via WSUS or Intune. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Engine XUI Authentication Bypass. CVE 2026-33032. Actively exploited a critical authentication bypass vulnerability in Engine XUI is under active exploitation following public disclosure. CVE 2026-33032, CVSS 9.8, EPSS 0.1%, 19th percentile, allows unauthenticated attackers to invoke all Model Context Protocol MCP tools, including restarting Engine X, creating /modifying/deleting configuration files, and triggering automatic reloads. The vulnerability exists because the /MCP message endpoint only applies IP whitelisting, and the default IP whitelist is empty, which the middleware treats as allow all. Approximately 2,600 publicly exposed instances exist, concentrated in China, the United States, Indonesia, Germany, and Hong Kong. Attackers can achieve full Engine X service takeover in seconds via 2 HTTP requests. Action: upgrade Engine XUI to version 2.3.6 immediately. As a temporary workaround, add middleware. Auth required to the /MCP message endpoint or change IP allow listing default from allow all to deny all. Audit Engine X configuration files for unauthorized modifications. Sources: The Hacker News Bleeping Computer Security Week. Next section, ransomware claims, last 48H. No structured ransomware victim claims data was available in today's collection. Next section, ransomware and extortion. AutoVista Group confirms ransomware attack automotive data, and analytics provider AutoVista confirmed a ransomware attack affecting operations in Europe and Australia. The London-headquartered company, which provides residual value monitoring, TCO tools, and data services to manufacturers, dealers, insurers, and body shops, is working with external incident response teams to contain the attack. Customer-facing applications are experiencing disruptions. No ransomware group has claimed responsibility. Some customer organizations have advised staff to block inbound email from all AutoVista Group entities and sanitize any files to remove links and executables. Sources: The Register Security Week. How Mix botnet targets Czech organization Cisco. Talos identified an ongoing malicious campaign affecting the Czech workforce with a previously undocumented botnet called PowMix. The campaign, active since at least December 2025, targets organizations across HR, legal, and recruitment sectors using compliance-themed lures, impersonating the Etica brand and Czech Data Protection Act. The attack deploys a PowerShell loader that extracts malware from a ZIP archive, bypasses AMSI, and executes in memory. PowMix employs randomized command and control beaconing intervals, embeds encrypted heartbeat data in URL paths mimicking REST APIs, and can remotely update C2 domains. The campaign shares tactical overlaps with the zip-line campaign, including ZIP-based payload concealment, scheduled task persistence, CRC32-based bot ID generation, and abuse of Heroku for C2 infrastructure. Sources: Talos Intelligence. Germany reclaims top spot for European ransomware targeting. Google Threat Intelligence reports that Germany saw a 92% increase in data leak site posts in 2025, tripling the European average growth rate. Germany moved to the forefront of European data leak targets following a 2024 period where the UK led in DLS victims. The shift reflects Germany's status as an advanced European economy with an increasingly digitized industrial base. The targeting is not proportional to the number of active enterprises, as Germany has fewer companies than France or Italy. Threat actors are increasingly targeting the German middlestand as larger North American and UK targets improve security posture. AI-powered localization is eroding historical language barrier protections. Sources: Google Threat Intelligence. Next section, business and infrastructure threats. N8N workflow automation platform, abused for phishing and malware delivery threat actors, have weaponized N8N, an AI workflow automation platform, to deliver malware and fingerprint devices via phishing emails. Cisco Talos observed attackers leveraging N8N webhooks hosted on *. App. N8N cloud domains to bypass security filters. Email volume containing these URLs in March 2026 was 686% higher than January 2025. In one campaign, attackers embedded N8N webhook links in emails claiming to share documents. Clicking the link displays a CAPTCHA that triggers download of modified RMM, remote monitoring and management, tools, Datto, Itarian endpoint management, from external hosts, establishing C2 persistence. Second campaign uses invisible images hosted on N8N webhook URLs as tracking pixels, automatically sending HTTP GET requests with victim email addresses when opened. Action, block asterisk. App, N8N. Cloud domains unless explicitly required for business operations. Monitor for unexpected webhook activity in email logs. Train users to recognize CAPTCHA-based malware delivery. Sources, The Hacker News. Supply chain compromise. Team PCP injects credential harvesters into trusted repositories. Recorded future detailed a March 2026 supply chain attack by Team PCP, which compromised Lite LLM, 97 million monthly downloads, and Checkmark security platform using stolen credentials. Team PCP gained write access to trusted software repositories and injected credential harvesting payloads into software. The malware ran on installation, stealing access keys, cloud credentials, and AI API keys, then exfiltrated encrypted data to lookalike domains. One compromised credential enabled cascading attacks across 5 ecosystems in 5 days. Recorded Futures Identity Intelligence contains almost 1 million compromised GitHub developer credentials from infostealers sold on dark web marketplaces. Action, rotate all publishing tokens and access keys for software repositories. Implement cryptographic signing for all commits. Enable commit signature verification on GitHub. Audit dependencies for unexpected changes post-commit. Deploy AI-driven anomaly detection for repository access patterns. Sources, Recorded Future. Signed Adware deploys AV-killing PowerShell scripts. With system privileges, Huntress researchers discovered a campaign using digitally signed adware from Dragon Boss Solutions LLC to deploy PowerShell scripts that disable antivirus products. The operation affected more than 23,500 infected hosts in 124 countries, including endpoints in education, utilities, government, and healthcare sectors. Assigned executables, promoted as browsers like Chromestra, Chromius, WebGenius, use advanced installers update mechanism to silently deploy MSI and PowerShell payloads with system privileges. The clock removal. PS1 script checks for Malwarebytes, Kaspersky, McAfee, and ESET, then disables them by stopping services, killing processes, deleting directories and registry entries, running silent uninstallers, and blocking vendor domains via host's file modification. The script executes at boot, logon, and every 30 minutes. Huntress synchold the main update domain Chromestra browser. Com to track infections. Action, scan for executables signed by Dragon Boss Solutions LLC. Block Chromestra browser, Com and World Wide Web Framework 3. Com domains. Review hosts file modifications, 0.0.0.0 redirects on endpoints with missing AV protection. Audit advanced installer usage in software deployment processes. Sources, Bleeping Computer. WordPress Essential Plugin Suite, compromised with backdoor. More than 30 WordPress plugins in the Essential Plugin package were compromised with backdoor code, allowing unauthorized access. The backdoor was planted in August 2025 after a new owner acquired the project in a 6-figure deal, but activation only occurred recently. The malware contacts analytics. Essential plugin, com to fetch a file, WP Commons boasts. PHP that injects code into WP config. PHP. The malware retrieves spam links, redirects, and fake pages from an Ethereum-based C2 address, displaying content only to Googlebot to avoid detection by site owners. WordPress. Org closed the plugins and pushed a forced update to disable the backdoor, but did not clean WP config. PHP. Affected plugins have hundreds of thousands of active installations. Action. If running essential plugin products, check for WP Commons boasts. PHP file, note the typo vs, legitimate WP Commons boast. PHP, manually inspect WP config. PHP for injected code. Update all essential plugin products to the latest forced update version. Consider alternative plugins. Sources, Bleeping Computer. Compromised DVRs used in Telnet-based botnet attacks. SANS Internet Storm Center documented a 2-second Telnet attack, demonstrating how quickly exposed camera systems are compromised. Attack from IP46.6.14.135 authenticated to TCP port 23 using default credentials, root/root. Then executed 10 commands in an automated sequence. The offending device is an airspace, Dahua OEM, 8-channel DVR in Spain running firmware last updated in August 2014, exposing Telnet, HTTP, and RTSP services. PowerShell script scanning Shodan identified 5,313 matching DVRs globally, with 3.8%, approximately 202 devices, actively reported for abuse in the last 90 days. The actual number of compromised devices is likely much higher, as the figure only includes recently reported infections. Action: disable Telnet port 23 on all DVR and security camera systems. Change default credentials on DAU-based systems, admin/admin 666,666/666,666. Update firmware on legacy surveillance equipment. Segment camera networks from corporate LANs. Sources: SANS Internet Storm Center. Next section, Windows/Active Directory security. Microsoft fixes Windows Server 2025 automatic upgrade bug. Microsoft resolved a known issue causing Windows Server 2019 and 2022 systems to unexpectedly upgrade to Windows Server 2025 overnight without licenses. The issue was first acknowledged in September 2024, following widespread reports from administrators. Microsoft blamed third-party update management software misconfigurations, but software vendors said the problem was caused by a procedural error on Microsoft's side, both with the speed of release and the classification. After more than a year, Microsoft re-enabled the upgrade offer via the Windows Update Settings panel. Sources: Bleeping Computer. April Windows Server 2025 updates trigger BitLocker recovery. Prompts. Microsoft confirmed that some Windows Server 2025 devices boot into BitLocker recovery after installing April 2026 KB 5082063 security update. The issue affects systems with unrecommended BitLocker group policy configurations where all of the following conditions are met. BitLocker enabled on OS Drive, group policy, configure TPM platform validation profile for native UEFI firmware configurations, includes PCR7. System information reports secure boot state PCR7 binding is not possible. Windows UEFI CA 2023 certificate is present in Secure Boot DB, and the device is not running the 2023 signed Windows Boot Manager. The issue is unlikely to affect personal devices, as configurations are typically found only on enterprise-managed systems. Microsoft provided workarounds including removing PCR7 group policy before deployment or applying known issue rollback. Cur. Action: review BitLocker group policy configurations before deploying KB 5082063. Remove PCR7 validation profile if present, or apply KIR to prevent automatic switch to 2023 Boot Manager. Communicate BitLocker recovery key requirements to server administrators. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Windows Server 2025 April update fails to install on some systems. Microsoft is investigating April KB 5082063 security update installation failures on some Windows Server 2025 systems. Affected systems report 0x800F0983 install errors. Microsoft is monitoring diagnostic data and observes recurring errors on a limited number of servers. The company is investigating the root cause and will share details as it learns more. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Next section, General Security News. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, narrows CVE, or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, analysis scope amid 263% surge in vulnerability submissions. The National Institute of Standards and Technology announced it will only prioritize CVE analysis for vulnerabilities in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, federal government software, and critical software defined under Executive Order 14,028. NIST analyzed nearly 42,000 vulnerabilities in 2025, with CVE submissions surging 263% from 2020 to 2025. Submissions during the first 3 months of 2026 are nearly one-third higher than the same period in 2025. NIST still has not cleared the backlog of unenriched CVEs that built up during the early 2024 funding lapse. CVEs outside the narrow criteria will still be listed in the NVD, but will not be automatically enriched with additional details. NIST will no longer provide separate CVSS scores for CVEs submitted with severity ratings, instead relying on CVE numbering authority assessments. Sources: Cyberscope. UAC 0247 targets Ukrainian government and hospitals with aging fly malware. CERT-UA identified attacks by threat cluster UAC 0247, targeting Ukrainian local governments and hospitals with a new malware family called Aging Fly. The campaign, observed between March and April 2026, begins with emails claiming to be humanitarian aid proposals. Links redirect to legitimate sites compromised via cross-site scripting or AI-generated fake sites that download LNK files. The LNK executes remote HTA files via MSHTA. EXE, which display decoy forms while injecting shellcode into legitimate processes. Aging Fly is a C-hash malware that provides remote control, command execution, file exfiltration, screenshot capture, keylogging, and arbitrary code execution via WebSockets with AES-CBC encryption. A distinguishing feature is that command handlers are retrieved from C2 as source code and dynamically compiled at runtime rather than pre-built. Attackers deploy Chrome Elevator to bypass Chromium app-bound encryption and harvest cookies/passwords, and ZA PyDesk to decrypt WhatsApp databases. Action: restrict execution of LNK, HTA, and JS files via AppLocker or software restriction policies. Block MSHTA. EXE, PowerShell, EXE, and WScript. EXE execution from user-writable directories. Monitor for reverse TCP shells on unexpected ports. Sources: The Hacker News Bleeping Computer. Microsoft pays $2.3 million for cloud and AI vulnerabilities at Zero-Day Quest. Microsoft awarded $2.3 million to security researchers after receiving nearly 700 submissions during the 2026 Zero-Day Quest hacking contest. Over 80 flaws found during the live event at Microsoft's Redmond campus were high-impact cloud and AI security vulnerabilities. Researchers identified critical paths involving credential exposure, SSRF chains, and cross-tenant access. The contest is part of Microsoft's Secure Future initiative, launched in November 2023 following a Department of Homeland Security Cyber Safety Review Board report that found the company's security culture inadequate and requiring an overhaul. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Raspberry Pi OS requires password for sudo by default. The latest version of Raspberry Pi OS now requires a password for sudo by default on new installations. Existing setups are untouched. Previously, any user could run sudo commands as administrator without authentication. Once entered correctly, the password is not required again for 5 minutes. Users who prefer the old behavior can revert via Control Center or raspiconfig. The change will break some scripts but improves the default security posture. Sources: The Register. U.S. nationals sentenced for operating North Korean IT worker laptop farm to U.S. Nationals were sentenced to prison for helping North Korean remote IT workers pose as U.S. residents and get hired by over 100 companies, including Fortune 500 firms. Kejia Wang, 42, received 108 months, and Jengsing Wang, 39, received 92 months for generating more than $5 million in illicit revenue for the North Korea government between 2021 and October 2024. They created financial accounts, fake websites, and shell companies: Tony WKJ LLC, Hapana Tech LLC, Independent Lab LLC, to collect payments. Jengsing Wang hosted company-issued laptops in U.S. homes to help remote workers access company networks without raising suspicion. 9 other defendants remain at large, with the State Department offering up to $5 million for information. Action: verify remote employee identities through video interviews and background checks. Monitor for laptops connecting from residential IPs for enterprise roles. Review hiring practices for IT contractors, especially those accepting significantly below market rates. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Next section: Patch Priority. Adobe Acrobat Reader, CVE 2026-34621, CVSS 8.6, CIS-ACEV exploited Zero-Day, update immediately. Microsoft SharePoint Server, CVE 2026-32201, CVSS 6.5, CIS-ACEV exploited Zero-Day, patch with April updates. Windows 11/Server 2025, CVE 2025-60710, CIS-ACEV system privileges, deploy November 2025 patches. Engine XUI, CVE 2026-33032, CVSS 9.8, actively exploited. Upgrade to 2.3.6. Fortinet 40 Sandbox, CVE 2026-39808, and CVE 2026-39813, both CVSS 9.1, authentication bypass and remote code execution. Update to 4.4.9 plus or 5.0.6 plus. SAP BW/BPC, CVE 2026-27681, CVSS 9.9, SQL injection. Apply April patches. Adobe Cold Fusion, 5 critical flaws including CVE 2026-27304, CVSS 9.3, RCE. Patch Cold Fusion 2025 and 2023. Next section, Vulnerability Disclosures. Fortinet 40 Sandbox Critical Authentication Bypass and RCE Fortinet released patches for 2 critical 40 Sandbox vulnerabilities, allowing unauthenticated attackers to bypass authentication or execute code via HTTP requests. CVE 2026-39808, CVSS 9.1, EPSS 0.3%, 53rd percentile, is an OS command injection flaw affecting 40 Sandbox 4.4.0-4.4.8, fixed in 4.4.9. CVSS 9.1, EPSS 0.1%, 18th percentile, is a path traversal bug in the 40 Sandbox gRPC API affecting 4.4.0-4.4.8 and 5.0.0-5.0.5, fixed in 4.4.9 and 5.0.6. No active exploitation has been reported, but public scanners are available. These updates arrive 1 week after Fortinet patched a critical 40 client EMS bug under attack since at least March 31 and added to CISA's KEV catalog, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: upgrade 40 Sandbox to 4.4.9 plus or 5.0.6 plus depending on branch. Use public scanners to check for vulnerable instances. Review 40 Sandbox logs for unauthorized HTTP requests. Sources: The Register, The Hacker News. SAP BW/BPC SQL injection. CVE 2026-27681. SAP patched a critical SQL injection vulnerability in Business Planning and Consolidation, BPC, and Business Warehouse, BW. CVE 2026-27681, CVSS 9.9, EPSS 0.0%, 14th percentile, allows a low-privileged user to upload a file with arbitrary SQL statements that are then executed against BW/BPC data stores. Attackers could extract sensitive data, delete or corrupt database content, and undermine close processes, executive reporting, and operational planning. Manipulated planning figures, broken reports, or deleted consolidation data can disrupt business operations. Action: apply SAP April security patches for BPC and BW. Audit file upload functionality for unauthorized SQL statement uploads. Review BW/BPC logs for suspicious database queries. Sources: The Hacker News. Adobe Cold Fusion critical vulnerabilities. Adobe patched 5 critical Cold Fusion flaws in versions 2025 and 2023 that could lead to arbitrary code execution, denial of service, arbitrary file system read, and security feature bypass. CVE 2026-34619, CVSS 7.7, EPSS 0.1%, 17th percentile, is a path traversal leading to security feature bypass. CVSS 9.3, EPSS 0.0%, 12th percentile, is improper input validation leading to RCE. CVSS 8.6, EPSS 0.1%, 31st percentile, is path traversal leading to arbitrary file system read. CVSS 7.5, EPSS 0.2%, 44th percentile, is improper input validation leading to security feature bypass. CVSS 8.4, EPSS 0.0%, 13th percentile, is improper input validation leading to RCE, and 4 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: update Cold Fusion 2025 and 2023 to the latest versions. Audit Cold Fusion applications for exposed gRPC or file upload endpoints. Sources: The Hacker News. Microsoft April Patch Tuesday. 169 vulnerabilities. Microsoft addressed 169 security defects in April Patch Tuesday, including 2 actively exploited 0 days. CVE 2026-34621 in Adobe Acrobat Reader, and CVE 2026-32201 in SharePoint Server. Both detailed above under Critical Alerts. This is Microsoft's second largest monthly batch of defects on record. Sources: The Hacker News. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.